About that. Police investigating what happened in a case of bullying. This story is so sad. It appears to have led to the death of a 12-year-old. He's a 6th grader. His name is Bailey O'Neill, and he died on Sunday after he was removed from life support. The kid began having serious seizures that forced doctors to eventually put him into a medically induced coma after a bullying incident at school that happened on January 10th. Now, the police haven't yet said if they're going to file charges. His family, though, as you can imagine, completely heartbroken.
I'm going to have nobody to call me daddy anymore, you know? No more phone calls from him, no more hanging out. Just no one to say daddy, you know? It's the worst feeling.
Oh my God, what a terrible, terrible story. Senator Bob Casey is a Democrat from Pennsylvania. He's the chairman of the Joint Economic Committee. He wrote an op-ed on CNN.com about bullying legislation that he has now proposed. We'll talk about that, sir, in just a moment. Good morning and welcome to you. I want to start, though, with the story of this little kid, Bailey. Apparently, he was bullied at school, and he was punched in the face in the schoolyard, taken to the hospital. He was treated for a concussion, was treated for a broken nose, and those serious seizures actually began a little bit later. What has been your reaction to this case that eventually ended a little more than a month of those seizures? He ended up dying.
Well, Soledad, it's a horrific story, of course, but I don't know anything more than you've reported, so I think it's a case still under investigation. But I know this for sure. When you speak to the larger question of bullying, this is an epidemic, and unless we deal with it, we're going to have all kinds of problems down the road for these young people who can't function, can't study, can't do the work they have to do.
Do you think it's worse than it was? I mean, do you think that bullying today is worse than it was, say, when I was in elementary school and high school, or do you think that we just are more sensitized to it and talking about it more and reporting on it more?
No, I think it is worse today. The technology makes it worse. In the old days when I was growing up, if you were bullied at school and you left the school, pretty much that was it until maybe the next day, as difficult as that was in those days. Today it follows you home. You're not only harassed online sometimes over and over again, hour after hour, but you have an audience of people that are witnessing it and sometimes participating in it. So I think it's worse, and until we deal with it, and I think the legislation that I have with Senator Kirk is one way to deal with it, is to say to school districts and states, you've got to have policies to prohibit it, you've got to have prevention programs, and you got to keep records and make sure that students and parents know their rights.
Give me specifics, because I think there are a number of schools where there have been incidents of bullying that would say we are a zero tolerance school. We do not want to see our children bullied. We completely support fixing that. What can we do that you can possibly legislate?
Well, the first thing I should say is there are a lot of schools that are engaged in these activities already, but not enough, and it should be across the board. Having specific policies on bullying is important. Secondly, making sure that you're putting in place a program so people talk about it and understand it. And the good news here is that you have a lot of schools that have undertaken this, even in the absence of a federal statute. So I think we just have to make it a much bigger issue. I think what CNN did the other night and has done for a number of months now, by highlighting elements of the movie Bullying, has heightened the awareness that we need.
Oh, that movie, we talked a lot about that when that was first coming out. Oh, that was just absolutely brutal. I want to turn to my panel for a second. Who was bullied on this panel? Really? You were?
Yeah.
What? Hang on, not you. Daryl Hannah was bullied?
Yeah. Every day after school, I was punched in the stomach till the air went out of my system and left on the ground to try to catch my breath and walk home.
Why? By whom? Just...
I don't want to name names, but
now's your chance, revenge. No, but seriously,
what was my neighbor? And he lived on the corner, and he'd punch me in the stomach as soon as we get off the school bus and leave me laying there every single day.
Did you tell people?
Too scared.
But the point that she just made, and this is part of the problem when you talk about bullying, you talk about fighting. The senator is right. With all the policies when it comes to the school, what happens when they leave the school grounds? What happens when you're fighting and you're no longer on the school bus? And so, unfortunately, you have kids all across America who are fighting other kids, and it's difficult for a school district to control that when they may be walking home at a park. It's very difficult.
But he's right about the social media part, right? How many times have we seen kids like now take their iPhones or take their, and they shoot it, and it doesn't just stay in the school or after the school day and on the school bus. It continues on. The senator has a legislation which is called Safe Schools Improvement Act. We thank you for talking with us, sir, about that this morning. God, this kid's story is so sad. We appreciate your time, Senator.
Reminds me of the Chicago story. The kid who was beaten after school died as well.
Oh, brutal. That just breaks my heart. All right, we got to take a break. Still ahead, a new movie.